Twitch makes this decision to terminate my contract and ban me without ever interviewing me, it's unbelievable!
Let me just stop you right there. This is insane.
Did any of you consider that the Twitch user may have been over the legal age of consent at the time of the messages?
Where's the evidence? Well, I mean, this is pretty strong evidence right here, right? Doc's own words. Okay, so Doc has come back. He has returned from the dead.
Oh, champs. A lot of people donating. I do appreciate it. I do appreciate it.
First of all, I gotta say, why not like retire? You know what I mean? He must really want it. Like he must still have like big ambitions. He's always been a pretty ambitious guy. I think he is counting on people being really stupid. Because some of the stuff that he says during this video is pretty wild. I think in his brain, he's still thinking about like $50 million Nike deal and a movie and a show. And like, I think he still has those ambitions. And I think he's looking at this whole situation with the Twitch stuff leaking as just like a little stumbling block. I think he's going to have a hard time, guys. I think he's going to have a hard time.
After what's transpired over the last couple months, am I excited to be back to this type of world? God.
To me,
man,
I don't know how you guys read this, but to me, he looks rattled. He's not at 100%. There's definitely some nervous energy here. Yeah. It's kind of fascinating when you think about it because the character Doc is just unbridled, you know, masculinity, confidence, alpha-ness, you know, like being an alpha. And I feel like that's sort of that character is bucking up against his you know, real life stress, anxiety, fear. And so it's a little fascinating psychologically to see that conflict.
It's good to be back to a certain degree, right? We got to figure out this monetization thing. So September 25th is basically when we can reapply for partnership on YouTube.
I don't think he's going to get it. I don't think he's going to get monetization back. Why would they overturn it? Why would they decide to change their mind?
Now that you're not getting monetized, you're not going to be streaming ever again, or you're on YouTube, are you? There's an opportunity to reapply. September 25th is the date.
I guess this is his way of sort of trying to make that case, but I don't think they're going to overturn the ban. Why would they?
We'll do what we need to do. I enjoy my time here on YouTube. You know, we've built a nice, strong community for years. This is where we started 16 years ago, 2008, I think. I like my time here and I like the community. We've got the best, realest gaming community, the Champions Club. And if there's an opportunity to reapply for partnership and there's a date that's been presented to us.
Yeah, he just looks rattled to me. He just looks really, really rattled to me.
Then I'm going to take it. In the meantime, like we always done, we've always stayed in our lane. We'll stay in our lane and continue to just put on a show.
I don't even think that's true. Stayed in your lane. I don't even think that's true. He's definitely piped up when it came to like trans stuff recently.
For almost 4 years, public demanded to hear from the doc regarding the Twitch suspension. Maybe it's time to tell my side of the story. You see, there was a lawsuit pending, and as part of that arbitration, all parties were not allowed to speak publicly about the case.
Okay, at this point, you can tell that he starts reading from a script, which, you know, nothing wrong with that, especially when you're trying to put out a really deliberate statement. You don't really want to go off the cuff, but at this point you can see him sort of switch into that gear of reading from a script. And I would assume that his lawyer or lawyers helped him to craft this statement.
I respected those rules. My lawsuit against Twitch was eventually resolved, as you all know. But even then, as part of the settlement, all parties were still prohibited from speaking publicly about the case or the settlement. However, if one side violated that confidentiality, then the other side could respond. And again, I respected all the confidential obligations. But apparently Twitch's own disgruntled employees didn't feel the need to abide by those same obligations.
I'm not sure Cody was disgruntled, was he? I don't think Cody was fired, was he? I think he quit. I don't know how much sympathy you get for somebody violating a confidentiality, or I don't think necessarily, I don't know if Cody had ever signed any kind of confidentiality agreement. I just don't know how much sympathy you get, especially given that Cody was essentially like fully vindicated. Because if you guys remember the timeline, Cody came out with the tweet, a tweet that just rocked the online discourse, and then journalists looked into it, and then multiple journalists essentially corroborated to the letter everything that was in Cody's tweet with direct sourcing.
Ex-Twitch employee wasn't even involved. Leaks Twitch's reported reason. Cody, why do this? What was the point? This was settled professionally.
You could argue that the point might have been to let other platforms know about the potential risk, which I think matters. Platforms where Doc is active on should know that this happened. Do you know what I mean?
And you, knowing how black and white the internet is, you decided, you rat, to leak the reported reason Twitch banned me. I mean, for what? Cody?
Who in the hell
Why?
does he think he is?
Did you not know the repercussions from spewing lies?
So does anyone have the conversation in question? Where's the evidence? Well, you want to talk about evidence. I mean, this is pretty strong evidence right here, right? Doc's own words. This in Doc's own words. He said, were there Twitch whisper messages with an individual minor back in 2017? Now remember, this was in the first draft of that tweet. Then he edited out the word minor, and then he edited the word back in. Now, like, I don't know. Without seeing the messages, I mean, I feel like we can reasonably speculate that the messages were definitely inappropriate enough for Twitch to sever a multi-million-dollar contract, but maybe not concrete ironclad enough to bring a case. There's lots of different scenarios that you can imagine fitting into that framework. You can do something totally inappropriate that isn't technically illegal.
Did you not know the repercussions of accusing me, Cody Connors? You see, you don't know, and it was obvious from your tweet. You didn't have any firsthand knowledge of my dispute with Twitch.
Again, Cody's tweet was 100%, like 100% vindicated.
You said that I got banned from Twitch because I was sexting a minor through Whisper's messages. Do you even know what the legal definition of sexting is? I do.
Okay, let's look at that. What is the legal definition? Notice that this is a really specific reference. So you can have something sexting in the colloquial sense, and then you can have sexting in the legal sense. What is the legal definition of sexting? Federal sexting crimes. Sexting is the act of sending explicit images to another person using digital devices. The act is illegal and punishable by a very high prison sentence. According to another site, sexting is the transmission of nude images or suggestive material.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
So it looks like the federal definition of sexting specifically means like images. Don't quote me on that. There are also state laws regarding sexting. So it might be the case that what he's saying here is that I never sent any pictures. I never received any pictures.
And yeah, I used Twitch's whispers, but trust me, I wasn't sexting anyone. You also said the word minor, Cody. I even made sure that word was emphasized in my statement, edited, etc., just to make sure these so-called journalists would pick up on it.
Okay. Let me just stop you right there. This is insane. Let's just back that up and repeat what he just said.
You also said the word minor, Cody. I even made sure that word was emphasized in my statement, edited, etc., just to make sure these so-called journalists would pick up on it.
We need to just pause here for a minute. That is insane. He is saying that when he put in the word minor and then took out the word minor and put it back in, he is essentially saying, yeah, that he was playing 4D chess and baiting journalists to pick up on that. Who in their right mind believes something like that? To me, I mean, that claim is so absurd, so ridiculous. That alone is so ridiculous that I don't know how you can even entertain the rest of what he's saying. If that doesn't set off like 5 alarm bells in your head and undermine his credibility to like 100%, then you're just a complete mark. I don't know who helped him come up with that. I don't know if that was his idea or that if it was one of his PR person's idea or if that was a lawyer idea. Who came up with that? That is just like truly, truly bizarre. The most bizarre thing he says in this entire video is he did that on purpose.
And boy, oh boy, did they ever, champs. When you and all these so-called journalists, Cody, fired off your tweets, did any of you consider that the Twitch user may have been over the legal age of consent at the time of the messages?
Okay, hold on. each state's, should I even Google this? Legal age of consent. I don't need a lawyer. Stop it. I don't need a, the lowest age of consent in the entire country looks like it's 16. So at every stage.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't do that.
If you read between the lines, it's pretty obvious that he's implying that she was 16 or 17 years old. But like, what kind of a gotcha is that? Did you think, Cody, did you think for a minute that maybe she was 16? Like, well, yeah. It occurred to me that that was a possibility. Like, why does he think that that's exculpatory?
You also tried to tell the world that I was trying to meet up with this user at TwitchCon, but you're wrong. Let's set the record straight. I never intended to meet this user ever. We never made plans to meet at TwitchCon or anywhere else, and in fact, we never met in person ever.
So there's some legalese in here. He's giving himself some wiggle room. So for example, if he asked this person, hey, do you have any plans for TwitchCon? He could say this statement that he just said would be true. He never technically made any plans. He never met this person. What were the three things he said?
Neither did any of these journalists, and neither did Twitch at the time of the ban. You also tried to tell the world that I was trying to meet up with this user at TwitchCon, but you're wrong. Let's set the record straight. I never intended to meet this user ever.
Never intended to meet her.
We never made plans to meet at TwitchCon or anywhere
Never made any plans.
else, and in fact, we never met.
And we never met. So if he asked her like, hey, do you have any plans for TwitchCon? Remember in the reporting, it was reported that he knew her age. He knew she was under 18 and he was flirting with her regardless, and then asked her if she had any plans for TwitchCon. But technically what he just said right here could be true if he said that, right? So that's more kind of legalese sort of way for him to, and you can start to understand like maybe why this wasn't elevated to a full-on criminal investigation if certain thresholds weren't crossed. Like if he walked right up to the line on a few different thresholds, but didn't technically cross those thresholds, then the legal options could be limited, even though what he did may be morally bad and would justify a ban on Twitch's part.
Your bullshit accusations gave false courage to other former Twitch employees to make it up as well.
Like what?
I suspect all of you sort of
Notice he doesn't get into particulars there. So what do you mean? So other people made stuff up. Well, what did they make up?
planned and coordinated this attack. These big time publications, these various outlets.
Ooh, he's rattled. You can see it. I'm getting the same feeling watching this that I watched from like when I watched like Unsolved Mysteries as a kid.
Are sort of just gossip channels now, don't you think, champs? They act like they're just gossip channels now, without any real journalism and real research happening.
Well, they found direct sourcing. They found, I think Slasher had 2 direct sources. There were like 5 journalists out there that were running this story down.
If these anonymous sources worked on the trust and safety team at the time of my Twitch suspension in 2020, then you would hope they would tell the truth. But apparently that's just too much to ask. If these former trust and safety team members, and by the way, I know exactly who they are.
Feels like a tacit threat there. Feels like a tacit threat. Oh, I know who you are. If you keep talking, I might sue. I mean, I could be reading too deep into that, but it felt like a threat to me.
Firsthand knowledge. Then what they conveniently left out is Twitch's trust and safety team. The same employees that decided to ban me internally admitted that the whisper messages were not sexting.
So again, if you imagine a situation where there was an internal debate and they came to the conclusion that maybe he didn't cross a threshold far enough that would warrant a criminal prosecution, but it would still be like too far for the platform to tolerate, then technically his statement right here would be correct. I mean, it sounds very definitive. They said it wasn't sexting, but that can mean a lot of things.
And 2, Twitch's trust and safety team, the same employees that decided to ban me, internally acknowledged that the whispers did not constitute child sexual abuse material CSAM. I'll say it again. Neither I nor the Twitch user exchanged any sexual graphic messages or images. Cody Connors and these other...
So maybe it didn't get to a point where, you know, they were like literally cyber sexing, but it crossed certain like flirtatious lines.
Anonymous sources are trying to paint a picture that I was exchanging sexually explicit messages and photos with this Twitch user. That never happened. I even used the word inappropriate purposely. And look at how it was defined by everyone, champs. Huh?
Well, I mean, listen, like once you cross that line, once you admit that line was crossed. That's kind of it, right? Like what you're saying is I exchanged inappropriate messages as a 37-year-old man with, a 16, 17-year-old girl. If you don't get into specifics about what you said, then of course people are going to draw all kinds of conclusions. But at the very least, we know that you exchanged inappropriate messages with someone who was under the age of 18 when you were 36, 37 years old and you had a family. Just that alone, without knowing any more specifics, completely justifies the Twitch ban. Like, what if they saw this happen, they did nothing about it, and then that eventually one day that escalated to him actually meeting up with someone who was underage? Well, now their platform is complicit in that exchange.
Including these defaming articles. How would each of you look if all of your private DMs, your text messages, your chats were looked at, dissected, and taken out of context by someone who's deliberately trying to find something inappropriate in those words?
Not that I'm inviting somebody like hacking me, but I'd be fine. I shouldn't have even said that, whatever.
And this is not a situation where a victim publicly
Maybe me talking about other creators, that might be a little uncomfortable.
accuses someone of wrongdoing. That never happened here. We're talking about allegations that Twitch made against me as a half-baked reason for justifying their actions of suspending and shutting down my channel. Allegations that Twitch made without even a legal analysis of whether the whisper messages were legal.
It doesn't have to be illegal for a platform to decide that you are a liability to them. He seems to be presenting this premise that the only justification to ban somebody from their platform is if they broke the law in a very specific legal sense, which is just silly.
I engage with other streamers. And through Twitch Whispers, I communicate with Twitch users. Conversations that consisted of a variety of playing games and gaming politics, content creation, random stuff. This was the extent of my whispers with this Twitch user. On June 21st, 2020, my ex-Twitch partner manager learns that I exchanged whispers with the Twitch user. And I say ex-partner manager because for years, this guy didn't do anything for me, my community, or my channel. For years. I'm talking no front page love. You're talking about the face of the platform.
Well, now he just sounds disgruntled.
Zero front page love on the website.
He was no stranger to controversy before all this. And that just comes with being like an edgy person. Like you might get passed up on some brand stuff if you're too edgy. And it also might have been like, you also have to remember that I believe Twitch Rivals, they always had like corporate sponsors. And maybe that brand specifically said like, I don't want to work with that content creator. Maybe it was outside of Twitch's hands altogether.
It was never on my channel. He didn't follow me on Twitter. He wouldn't even inform us about Twitch rival tournaments. We're talking about the two-time Twitch rival tournament. Oh, I'm sorry. Would you want to play in it? We got zero support from this guy. And it was just so obvious that he carried a grudge against the two-time. So after we signed with Twitch in 2019, we asked for a new partner manager. Just a few months later, that ex-Twitch partner manager is directly involved with getting me banned. Coincidence?
I don't even understand what the allegation there is. I mean, this doesn't really mean much. Like, you're saying that somebody who was, by your own words, a minor at the time that you were flirting with them, or I believe you can reasonably infer flirting from like inappropriate messages. That's not a really strong leg to stand on, in my opinion, that somebody who was a minor at the time that you were flirting with them didn't want to like go forward with any kind of a report or anything like that. That doesn't really, I don't understand how that changes anything.
The Twitch user tells this ex-Twitch,
well, she thought I wasn't doing it. He's implying like, well, she thought I didn't do anything wrong. That's kind of what she's implying here.
Partner manager that they do not want to report anything to Twitch. But this ex-Twitch partner manager encourages the user and even directs them to file a report directly with Twitch, even though the user told him clearly that we never physically met anywhere and that no photographs were exchanged. On June 24th, 2020, Twitch's special operations team receives and reviews the user's report. They find no issues and determine that it did not warrant any further escalation to Twitch's law enforcement response team. That would have been the end. That should have been the end. But that partner manager, oh boy, did he had it out. He had it out for the two-time. He finds out that no further action will be taken, so what does he do? He personally escalates the report to a friend on the Twitch's LER team. The LER team, remember, that's the Twitch's law enforcement response team.
all this means is that there was initially in the beginning some internal debate about how to move forward.
So a day later, on June 25th, the LER analyst pulls the entirety of the whisper messages and begins discussing them with his director of the LER team. Mind you, this director is on vacation at that time and does not have access to their computer or work files. Let me just remind you, I went through a
So the director was on vacation. So whenever a director goes on vacation, somebody else steps up and serves in the director's role during that time.
Big time arbitration. Okay. The LER analyst cherry picks and sends a few targeted excerpts out of context from the whisper messages to this director. Now, if you do this, you can make anyone's messages look inappropriate, even when they aren't. Within less than 1 hour, this LER analyst and his director have made the decision to suspend me from Twitch. Twitch submits a report to NCMEC. You guys all read those little articles, huh? The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Guess what? As far as I know, and over 4 years have passed, they didn't do anything with the report. As far as I know, they didn't escalate Twitch's report to law enforcement. Mind you, the same people that made this decision admit internally that the
Again, he seems to be making the case that unless it passes a certain legal threshold, that Twitch had no justification for taking the action that they did, which I find to be ridiculous.
messages did not constitute sexting. The same people that made this decision at Twitch admit internally that the messages did not warrant any child sexual abuse material charge. Twitch makes this decision to terminate my contract and ban me while admitted they did not perform any legal analysis of whether the messages exchanged were illegal in any way. Twitch makes this decision to terminate my contract and ban me while admitting that they never investigated the age of consent in the jurisdiction where the user's messages were sent and received.
Does that matter?
Twitch makes this decision to terminate my contract and ban me without ever interviewing me, the user, or any other third party, including the partner manager. It's unbelievable!
Do they need to interview you if they can see messages that go beyond their comfort level? You know, like, why do they need to interview you? If they have you dead to rights in messages that they just deem to be just totally unacceptable for the platform, nothing you say is going to change that. I mean, he's really harping on the, as long as it wasn't illegal, then it was fine.
I'm not going to get into every detail regarding my legal case,
Probably can't.
but these former Twitch employees that claim to have firsthand knowledge, they just don't have a clue.
For the sourcing for the news articles that reported on this, there were I think 2 or 3 or 4 journalists that had direct sourcing from at least 2 people. So when we say direct sourcing, we mean they saw the logs, they were like personally involved in the decision to terminate the contract with Doc. And he's saying that I guess he's alleging that the media is either lying about having direct sourcing, or he's alleging that the people who were reported to have direct sourcing are lying themselves.
They didn't report any facts. The judge in the case determined that the whispers were not illegal. So then why did Twitch use these messages against me? Why did Twitch treat the doc so differently from their other streamers outside of the obvious? I mean, just take a look at me, right? Unfiltered, the realest motherfucker in this industry.
If the company had a grudge against him, why did they offer him millions of dollars for an exclusive contract?
6'8", gorgeous, athletic, successful, college degree, college athlete, bourbon business, gaming studio, beautiful family. And trust me, we've worked hard for over a decade to improve as a person, a husband, and father, and to get where we're at today. I mean, I'm in such a good place. And all these people, they all act like they're just so perfect.
It doesn't take anything to say I'm not perfect, but throughout this entire video, he's not taking any kind of accountability. I mean, it looked like he took, like, at the very minimum, just a little bit of accountability in that original Twitter message that he put out. And then I think he subsequently deleted that Twitter message that he put out there. And in this video, he's taking no accountability whatsoever. He seems to be making the case in this video that he did nothing wrong, literally nothing wrong. So while I'm glad to hear that he's in a better place, I'm not rooting for his family to, like, fall apart. Without any kind of accountability, it's just difficult to to call something like this like a redemption. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
If he hadn't put that message out there, that I think he would have just so much more credibility. But the fact of the matter is he put out a statement acknowledging that he had inappropriate conversations with a minor.
I don't claim to be perfect. Sometimes I do. But I also didn't do all the shit that they're saying I did. But then that doesn't make a story, right? The media wants controversy. And by sensationalizing all this with big, inaccurate headlines like sexting and sexually explicit, you all got what you wanted at the expense of the two-time. They wanted to cut down the doc. Plain and simple. Take a look at some of these horrendous acts of Twitch streamers that were never banned. Example number 1, a streamer that frequently used the N-word while publicly streaming, which constitutes a violation of Twitch.
Well, are we talking hard R or are we talking A here?
Twitch's policies if accompanied by hateful intent. Twitch scheduled a meeting with the streamer to ascertain his intent to determine whether his conduct was a violation of Twitch's policies, ultimately determining it was not a breach of Twitch's policies. Why wasn't I called into a meeting?
Having a discussion about intent and specific language is a much different conversation than one about flirting with a minor and asking them if they have plans for TwitchCon. I don't think that these are in the same universe.
Example number 2, streamer was reported for discussing doing things with deceased animals and discussing pedophilia, all while live streaming. Never suspended, but instead.
I mean, was it a joke? You know, were they making jokes? I mean, were they making edgy jokes?
Given a multi-million-dollar contract. Example number 3.
I assume it was edgy jokes.
Streamer was reported for a sexually explicit stream involving children and telling children to send Snapchats of them playing with themselves. Never suspended, but instead, given a multi-million-dollar contract.
I don't even know who he's talking about here. You know, you're in a winning position when you have to start pointing fingers at people who might be worse than you. Yeah.
It's so obvious that certain Twitch executives, employees involved had personal biases against the doc and used all of this as an opportunity to terminate my contract. Go back and look at the timing of all this too. The doc's termination lines up with 2 preferable, profitable, and expensive streamers leaving Mixer.
So he's alleging that they decided to just dump his contract so they can spend money to swipe on. I mean, that doesn't make sense for anything that he laid out. Because earlier he was making the case that the reason why this got escalated to the point that it did was because there were specific individual Twitch employees that had an axe to grind with him. And now he's switching up the story to suggest that like the execs, the people that are in charge of deciding who to give exclusive contract or offer exclusive contracts to, now he's saying that they had an issue with them. The story that he's laying out here contradicts itself. It doesn't make any sense.
These other expensive streamers needed a new streaming platform, so Twitch rushed through its decision to terminate the two-time.
It's a conspiracy shotgun theory. Throw out a bunch of random ass theories and hope it's exactly what this is. Yeah.
And Cody Connors, I just have to say it again. Why would you do this? This was handled professionally years ago. No wrongdoing. But because of you, Cody, unfortunately, we have to lay off people from Midnight Society.
First of all, is he even a part of Midnight Society anymore? I'm fairly sure they let him go. And secondly, dude, if you are responsible for the incomes of people that work underneath you, that's like even more incentive to not make a crazy mistake like the one that you made here. He's just blaming the guy who blew the whistle rather than take any accountability for his own actions here.
Because of you, Cody.
I don't think Cody's going to lose any sleep over this.
You know, through all of this, we are where we are. And like a man, I'll accept it.
I don't think you have, though. To me, this doesn't sound like you accept what's happening here. I mean, it sounds like you're blaming everybody but yourself.
But I don't accept sitting quietly by and let these idiots attack me with false accusations. No. For all these doc haters out there too, oh man, the ones that project and worry about everyone else's problems, right? I can't understand that mindset. I could care less. We've always stayed in our lane. But somehow, some way,
he seems to be implying that he never like talked about people or involved himself in controversies before, and it's just not true.
These people, they just get in our lane. For all you doc haters, I'm sure you'll dissect all of this and still find a way to publicly criticize me. Do what you need to do. This isn't for you. This was for my team today, my community, my friends, La Familia that have supported me. And I'm not denying the exchange of whispers, champs. I'm not denying that to all of you out there. It looks bad. I have no way of knowing if the Twitch user thought our exchange of whispers was inappropriate. If it was,
Doesn't matter. Does it matter what they thought?
All I know is that I never did what Twitch, Cody Connors, or the public is claiming that I did. I'm not saying anything more about any of this, right? Unless I need to, because trust me, I have more I haven't disclosed. I just want to get back to what we do best, put on a show, and climb our way to the tippity top of the mountain, man. In our own lane.
I think when you reach the kind of level that Doc reached, it's essentially impossible to be fully canceled. I think when you reach the sort of level that Doc reached, and when you have a sort of like, and specifically with him and his kind of like content and his kind of community, there's a big cult of personality. Did you know him during the Machinima days? The first time I met Doc was probably 2010. He came to the Machinima studios and filmed a sketch with Sark. Early on, when I first got the thing at Machinima, when I got that thing, like I was like the face. It was like me and Sark, but in the beginning, I was like the face of Machinima Respawn. And so there were a lot of creators that they acted like entitled to a collaboration. And Doc was one of them. And so like, some people would be like, yeah, let's do like a collaboration video with Hutch. And I felt like I had no agency. And so I was kind of resistant. He came to the studio, and at first I didn't really like the vibes. I'm not doing like a post hoc kind of like situation. I just didn't like, I felt like I was a tool. I felt like people were looking at me like a tool. And so I told Sark, I was like, I don't really want to do a video. And Sark was like, that's okay, I'll just do a video. And so him and Sark filmed the video. He got a job working for Sledgehammer. The second time I saw him was at COD XP in 2011, and things were much more chill then. Like he was not in character. He was like working on the game. And then after that, we got along like fine. And so we played games every so often, not like super often, but every so often. We, probably played games with Doc like between like 20 and 30 times over the last 10 years. I just don't like it when content creators with massive platforms use those platforms to like bully people. And I saw him start to do this thing where he was like, things started getting kind of weird, like around COVID. Like he was buying like shungite rocks, and it just, some of his COVID takes were getting kind of weird. And then he started like commenting about like, there was like the pronoun, he was complaining about pronouns. And then I just don't like that. And so like my opinion of him went really, really south in the last like 5 years.